Hello and welcome to Ask GMBN Tech. This is a video where we answer your questions you've submitted using the hashtag Ask GMBN Tech under tech videos. We look through, we pick out the ones we want to answer this week. And the first one is from Dave, always sending, who says, whatever happened to I-beam saddles? They were massive at one point.
Massive?
No, just popular. None of that.
Oh, okay. I think this is before my time, so you're going to have to explain.
I feel like it was sort of it's like a mid-late 2000s thing. It's very it screams like downhill to me. You've got an SCG iFlare 2 I-beam saddle, you've cut up a bit of tyre and stuck it on it for grip. I think they actually made one that had like mock tyre treads for Samuel to slide his butt around on. And it was a very simple, very strong, that was what they said. It was cheap, light and strong, pick all three of them for this girder thing on the bottom of the saddle. Instead of rails, it was a clamp and you could attach the saddle better. Oh. And there was only, SDG pushed it really hard, Deity made it as well, with dropper posts as well. That kind of bakes in the accepted standard. It means the barriers to change are even higher, because it's not like you can just, I know it's quite a downhill specific thing, this, but it's not like you could just buy a different seat post and choose the saddle. Like now everyone's got a dropper post, you're not going to probably change it because it's a more expensive choice. But yeah, until you asked this question, I thought, God, where do they go? And I read into it and I was like, oh,
well, they've all broken,
yeah.
So we didn't bother making any new ones.
Because it turns out you can't have cheap, light and strong pick 3.
Wow, did not know that.
But thanks for bringing that back up.
So question 2 is from Buzzed Charles, who simply says, should I get shorter cranks? And that is the question. That is a really big question, because Buzzed Charles, I have no idea how tall you are, how long your legs are, what you're currently riding, what sort of trails you're riding, and all of those things will influence your decision in crank length. So if we think about it from an ergonomics point of view, you might want a crank length that kind of places your foot under your knee, for example, getting a nice powerful stroke, but also not hurting any joints. But from a feel point of view, it changes it, because when you bring your feet closer in together, it's said that you can square off your hips and feel a bit more powerful and stable on descents. I personally am running 145s to 155s at the moment. I'm about 5'1", and for me, that has brought my legs into a really nice, powerful position, and I feel like I can pop and pump the trail so much better on those shorter cranks now. However, I wouldn't run that for an XC bike. I would feel like I'm spinning too much because your RPM kind of feels a little higher because you brought your feet in. And when I did a video on this with 5Dev recently, I'll leave the link in the description below. You should go and check that out because it explains everything. I really enjoyed shorter cranks, but Rich didn't. And even though he was recommended 165 to 170s, he actually goes 175 and longer because he prefers that feel and that leverage and the stability of longer cranks. So the long but short answer is, it depends, and go and watch my other video.
The next question.
Yes?
Yes.
I'm excited, go.
Okay, the next question is from Sam, confused in Warrington, who says, hashtag Ask GMBN Tech, I have a question concerning the setup guide for forks. Why do the pressure and rebound settings change with rider weight, but the compression damping settings do not? I feel like if you're a heavy rider, you want a bit more support in the mid-stroke. Yeah, great question. I think the thing here is that spring rate, like air pressure and rebound, are linked, and the compression damping is sort of more divorced from that. And it is more about riding style and how fast you hit things. You want to adjust your air pressure so that you're going to have a more supportive, or the right amount of support for the force, and that's affected by your weight, like how hard you're hitting everything. And you want the forks to behave in like a reasonable way, so you adjust the pressure to support you enough. And then, so if you have more air in your forks holding you up because you're adding more weight, that compressed air is then going to rebound faster within your forks. So you then add a little bit more rebound damping, you close the circuits so that a heavier rider and a lighter rider experience the same rebound speed for the same amount of travel used. Compression damping is a lot more about controlling the sort of the feel and the speed of the suspension, and there's not really any way to say that, like, for example, a heavier rider would hit something faster or harder. So I think there's not really a right or wrong answer for this. Like maybe, yes, it could be slightly different for rider weight, but I think it's so dependent on your terrain, the type of trails you're riding, the type of bike feel you want, that I'm pretty sure the guides say stick it in the middle and try, which is, I think, the right ethos to take with all these setup guides. It's giving you like a nice middle position with the air pressures and the rebound, everything else, and then so you don't have like an awful fork, and then you can sort of play with that a little bit. Did you
for sure. No, I mean, that's why I do think Fox can confuse things by having like so many clicks on that compression. It makes you think that you should be moving through those dependent on your weight or your style or whatever. Whereas other ethoses like Olin's, for example, just want 3 clicks, and that is for their full factory forks. And they think there is open, closed, and somewhere in the middle, and they think that is fine because it is personal preference at the end of the day. So yeah, setting it in the middle and playing with it either way is a good way to figure out what is best for you. Okay, my question here from 3 and blah, 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 says, hey guys, I'm looking to build a slope-duro bike. Whoa, there's another genre.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of doing a custom drivetrain and wondered if it's possible to run 12-speed SRAM road cassette and body in a boost frame with a short cage custom SRAM axis derailleur. Wow, all of the stuff going on there. I'm presuming here that you want axis so that you can do nice bar spins, but you want 12-speed because of the nice easy gears, because it's slope-duro, obviously, and maybe you want short cage because it keeps things up and out the way, and that's very free ride. So let me talk about the road compatibility here. So having a SRAM road cassette would need to fit onto a SRAM XDR body, and effectively you wouldn't be able to fit a SRAM road cassette onto a normal SRAM XD body, which is the mountain bike version, because it's like 1.85 mil longer. So you could do it the other way around. If you had an XDR body, you could fit an XD Eagle cassette on there with a 1.85 spacer, but you couldn't do it the other way around. So just make sure you do have a road cassette with an XDR road body for starters. You're obviously comfortable custom making your SRAM derailleur, which is great. That's fine. Your problem is that your new road cassette is going to need a flat top chain, because that's what they are compatible with, and there's a lot of chain rings on the front and cranksets that won't be compatible with that flat top chain. So you might have to up your wallet and get yourself a T-type Eagle crankset as well, because they are flat top chain compatible. So this is getting really spenny here. But, you know, if you feel like this is really breaking the bank, then you might want to just go backwards a little bit and consider like a SRAM downhill 7-speed setup, where you can have a range on the cassette, which is very similar to the road, although there'll be 7 gears and a big increment rather than 12. But, you know, I'm pretty sure Brendan Semenok we've seen his bike actually in the SRAM 10 Sea Otter, and he's running the old short cage 7-speed derailleur with the 7-speed cassette, and he effectively just runs a couple of turns of cable around his bars in order to be able to do nice spins. But if you want the 12-speed, then he is going to have to go road and custom make his own derailleur and spend a lot of money on a new.
Next question from Justin Mullins. Ask GMBN Tech. I purchased a Kelly Swag 10 in size large towards the end of COVID. It was the only full sus bike I could find back then near their price range. I'm a novice rider. I've been having trouble with washing out in corners. I'm 5'10.5", and the reach of my bike is 503 millimeters, presumably.
That's big.
Is my bike too large to reliably weight the front wheel? With more bike availability, I can't decide whether to try a smaller bike or just need to develop skills further. And then they talk about it runs Max's DHR2 tyres and dissected rears. Thanks. Hi, Justin. It's all up to preference, but I'm about the same height as you. I'm roughly 5'11". I've ridden a bike that was 500 mil reach, and I felt it was too long for me, and I couldn't load the front tyre. I couldn't turn it around any trees. I worked quite hard on my skills. I don't think it's that. I think it's too long.
Baller.
No, I just spent time practicing and I didn't get better. I had to get a smaller bike. So to keep it short, I mean, I know obviously not everyone you have a limited price rate, you can't just buy a smaller bike, I think it's probably worth trying that, and confident that, that is very long and the front wheel will wash out.
And my final question is from Matthias Payne, who says, I just bought an Ibis Ripmo with Fox 38s on there. I have set sag at 30%, but it seems they are a bit stuck down by about 10-15 mil. At the same time, I can't seem to bottom them out, so they're obviously feeling firm. And I'm a light dude, and you go on to explain more, but I'm pretty sure I know the response to this, because if they're feeling firm and you're not getting full travel when the bike is just standing there, then there's probably a positive and negative air. There's probably a problem equalising the air chambers. So if you imagine, that forks are telescopic, they go into each other, but you need air in different places to make sure they come back out. If you don't, then they're not going to come back out, and that's why they've stuck down. It's also why they're feeling quite firm too. Now, generally, there is a little sort of dimple on the inside of these. Let me get some forks. So you've mentioned the releasing the valves and it not doing anything, which is probably the buttons on the back, but this only releases and equalises pressure in your lowers. The problem you're having is equalising pressure inside the actual stanchions of your fork. There's little pistons that move around and the air moves around those pistons, and there's a tiny little dimple in there that allows the air to sort of circulate effectively. Now, what you need to do is release all of the air from your fork and start pumping it up, and usually to cycle this through you tend to raise it by 10 psi, compress the forks, and then raise it by 10 psi again, compress the forks, and keep going until your desired pressure. And if you're still having issues with those forks being sucked down and not being in full travel, then it might be that little dimple somewhere is blocked. Sometimes there's too much grease from the factory and it won't let the air pass through the chambers and equalize properly, and you're going to need to open those up. Now, we have done a video on how to open those up and to remove it and clean it, so I'll leave that in a link in the description below where you can watch that if you're confident opening them up. You shouldn't need too many specialist tools. However, if you are not confident once you've watched that video, then you're going to have to send them to a service centre to get them sorted out. Whew. That was a long one. Anyway, thank you so much for sending in your questions. And if you can use hashtag Ask GMBN Tech down in the comments of any of our videos, then we'll try and pick them up and answer them in a show like this. But for now, thank you for watching. Bye.